Also, I forgot I have to take off the regular music.
Yeah.
No Adele is allowed. Hi everyone, how are y'all? We're gonna just talk about some Khanri'ah lore, and I'm in the Discord voice chat. Feel free to pop in and give your 2 cents, but if you're not talking, just remember to stay muted if we get a lot of people, just because sometimes it's happened before it gets very hectic. Also, I got a new mic, so if you can't hear me, let me know.
Oh, that's a pretty nice actually.
It's very also,
It changes color.
and it changes color. It was like, and it came with the whole mount, and it was like less than $40. It was pretty cheap.
Wow, I like that.
It's very nice. I was like, my other mic was like very cheap, so this one was is nice. Hi, Night Bubbles. So I don't want to focus on 3.5 too much because I don't know how many people haven't had a chance to play it, but we are going to talk about it, just a heads up. I'll try and like, no, I'll forget. We'll try and if you don't want spoilers, avoid it the best. Let me actually change this playlist before we sit here and I get copyrighted.
Yeah, copyrighted is not good.
They're just so
And
strict about it. Like, it's intense.
yeah, that's why you need to play around it so that your music is only like you can only hear it when you're live and not when you have a VOD or anything.
Yeah, I've looked into it, and apparently it's a lot of editing, and it's kind of expensive to like get it set up. So maybe later.
Maybe in the future.
So I this is you already finished the quest. Perfect. So this is like kind of inspired by I made a video the other day about were the archons in Khanri'ah at the time Khanri'ah fell, and the video got a lot of controversy where people like here. Let me try and turn Rebel up some more. I just tried to turn everyone up, but I might need to edit my actual desktop audio because sometimes if your sound mixer turns down your system sounds, it doesn't do well.
Yeah.
Um, and where's the sound mixer? Rebels at
Wait,
100.
is that? Am I getting this Dino commission? That's not it.
That is not right.
It might. Yeah, in Subaru, there's a genius invocation TCG Dino
So let's do
commission
it like that.
card, and so I got the first one before TCG dropped, and now I think I have the second one because it says it's
Oh, no
genius
worries.
invocation.
Also,
Uh,
thank you for stopping by, even though it's the middle of the night. Okay.
oh,
But Conry allure. So it encouraged a debate of what actually happened because a lot of people were like, "There's no way the Archons were in Conria when it fell, because they were fighting during and the chasm was happening." And I'm like, "No, no, that's separate." So I thought we would talk about the actual Genshin timeline today,
yeah,
and
because it's very mixed, right? Because
yeah,
some people were at Khanri'ah at the time of the cataclysm, others weren't. Like I think it's pretty. I know it's up and
well, all the
down.
archons were, and so let's talk about it. One thing I think, oh yay, I know. One thing I think that a lot of people get confused about is the fact that Lumine and Aether were in Kanya for an unknown amount of time, and one who's the traveler was like stuck in a meteor. I know. But they were stuck in a meteor, and the twin was living in Conria trying to figure out how to get us from the meteor. We were asleep. And so we don't know how long that existed, but we woke up right before or right during the cataclysm.
Yes.
And so, what was the cataclysm? Do one of y'all want to say what the cataclysm was?
Yeah, I will.
And go
That's
for it.
one thing I know. Okay, so cataclysm is what others call the fall of Khanri'ah. It's what we've been taught it's called. Other people just call it the fall of Khanri'ah, but all the archons refer to it as the cataclysm. And it is a term we learned, I think, during Venti's first
Yes.
Archon quest, where he briefly just mentions it, and then Dane confirms this along with Zhang Li, also stating um, A doesn't really use the term. She just talks about it in terms of Makoto.
Yeah,
The
and she
other,
said she went to Conria. She doesn't say cataclysm.
yeah, she just says she went to Khanri'ah to look for Makoto during the battle, but she was too late, and Makoto was literally on the brink of death and basically died in her arms.
Yeah.
And that's
And
how she
so,
became.
and Rukkhadevata said that, or not Rukkhadevata, Nahida tells us that they learned from Rukkhadevata or in Irminsul that all the archons. Okay, you can't hear the other person well. I'm gonna try and turn them up even more. Discord hates me. But that all the archons were called to the cataclysm. And Nahida says specifically, I was the only one who did not go because I had to stay behind and protect Irminsul. And so that tells us that all of the archons, regardless of when they went or if they were there the whole time, were in Khanri'ah called to the cataclysm at one point.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
I think
turned that
that
up too.
both. I think that both. I think the ones that we know canonically weren't there for a long time were Venti and A, because A wasn't the Archon at the time. She went there right at the end to just
Mm-hmm.
look for her sister, and Venti was busy at first fighting off Durin, and then had to rush to the Cataclysm to
Yeah.
Khanri'ah at the very end. So he wasn't really involved because we also know he woke up from like a 500-year-old nap or some shit.
So how long ago was the caterpillars on the cataclysm? I know it's struggling. Let me know. I've adjusted like 7 settings, so let me know if it got any better or worse. Let's try that too. Um,
Yeah.
but one thing is that the cataclysm was 500 years ago in the current timeline. No, it is
Yeah.
fine, pile of snakes. And I think you're right. And I think one thing so that people don't realize is we know the cataclysm is an event in the timeline, but we don't actually know how many days, how long it was, because the thing in the chasm, the rift towns that A was fighting in Inazuma, Albedo's little cousins, Durin and all that were awoken in the cataclysm, but it seems like the Archons went and destroyed Khanri'ah. To me, this is my theory. I want to know if y'all have conflicting theories. And then afterwards, kind of the monsters, Gold's monsters, flooded from Khanri'ah because Khanri'ah seems to be underground. Like even 3.5, we hear that an entrance to Khanri'ah was in Sumeru. And it's kind of, which implies that there are multiple entrances into Khanri'ah. And I'm kind of thinking that all these monsters, when Khanri'ah was falling, fled out of it and did the nations. And that's when Venti went to Durin. That's when Zhongli went back to the chasm. And but the only problem with that timeline is A fights the Rift Hounds and then comes to Khanri'ah to find Makoto only dying. So Makoto doesn't have time to go back. But it doesn't seem like A saw any of the other Archons there because no one was there to ask what happened.
Yeah, and I also think that because we know that canonically, because we are told this, Venti was asleep when the cataclysm started. He woke up because the people of Mondstadt were crying out for help, and
Yeah.
we know that he was asleep. Maybe not in one setting like the entire time, but he would sleep 500 years before the cataclysm.
Yeah.
He was asleep, and then the cries of his people woke him up. He went with the Valen, fought off Durin,
Well, we don't
killed him.
actually know that. Pause for a second, Rebel. So I
Yeah,
went and looked. I'll open up the Skyward Blade because that is the description that this is in, where we have kind of Venti fighting Durin. And this is one thing is that a lot of people take the text here to mean that Venti fought Durin beside Dvalin, but if I think I'm reading, let's see. It said, hearing the people's cry for help, the Animo Archon descended and awoke Dvalin. Dvalin ride the winds. And it says in the next line, blessed by the Animo Archon, Dvalin fought the Shadow Dragon. Clouds broke and the sky turned red as if the end of days was upon Mondstadt. And that line in particular sounds very familiar to the sky we see in Khanri'ah, the like sky burning red as if the end days.
yeah,
And so, and then it says, eventually Dvalin's blessed flames pierced through the throat of Durin. Durin fell, but Dvalin was poisoned. But like, it doesn't say that Venti was actually there. It says that Venti woke him up and blessed him while
yes,
and then Dvalin fought the dragon.
yeah. maybe they didn't fight side by side, but it's very up in there because Venti doesn't really talk much about it because it sounds like after he fought together with Devalin, if he did, he went to Conrad and then just came back and fell right back asleep. Is
Yeah.
what it sounds like.
Well,
So
and
he,
and we know Venti was flying around. Venti was doing the most in the Cataclysm because he also has a line towards the end of his story quest where
he
the
does.
Ragrose timeline. We could talk about the Ragrose timeline later, if we make it to there.
Yeah.
I just have so many thoughts on Khanri'ah. But like, if you think about Oh, at the end of Venti's story quest, the Mondstadt Archon
Yeah.
chapter, when you're asking him, he says that 500 years ago, at the time of the Cataclysm, him and the Tsaritsa and the other Archons had a conversation. And the Tsaritsa asked something of the other Archons, and they said no. We don't know why. We don't know what the question was. And Venti said, I really regret that. That's when the Tsaritsa, we used to be really good friends. She cut off all contact with me, and she started the Fatui kind of at this point in time. And so I'm kind of wondering where was this conversation, and it doesn't seem like A was involved. So was this before Makoto died but at Khanri'ah? And if the other archons, like whereas Rukkhadevata excluded, it's just that little tidbit of where did Venti talk to the Tsaritsa in between the Durin stuff and everything. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yes. It doesn't make sense, but maybe he didn't really outright say no because it seems like it's either just that he was like maybe you're jumping to conclusions or being irrational. He just says that I regret not listening to her.
Which makes me think, like, the fact that Venti says, like, we were wrong, we should have listened to the Tsaritsa, because he says at one point that Sturkar is we, as in him and the other Archons, but he is talking from a personal perspective. But he says the Tsaritsa asked things of them, and he said no.
Yeah.
Or he was like, I didn't listen to her. And so it makes me think if Venti really regretted not listening to the Tsaritsa, is that why he gave up his like? Is that why everyone's just handing over their gnosises?
Yeah. Maybe it's like his way of, you know, like saying sorry.
I know, because I'm sorry, I don't think if Senora could have, because if you think about it, she
Nora
was
shouldn't
ranked.
have just walked right up and just stuck her hand into his chest and then walk away with the gnosis and him letting her do that.
Well, because I think Nahida actually dispels that Venti would lose to Senora with his
Yeah.
gnosis,
Yes.
because she says that only the top three harbingers have power equal to that of gods. So to me, that kind of establishes that Senora did not have the power to forcibly take Venti's gnosis.
Yeah, he just
Yeah,
let her. Do you have any thoughts, Alex?
I agree with y'all.
He just
I also feel like at this point, like, Venti just let her do it. I mean, like, he let her hit him. I mean, after he insulted her on purpose, probably, even.
I know he was just spitting facts. We
not
all
only
know it.
that, can we also talk about the fact that he probably let her hit him because he knew about what happened to her lover and felt a bit guilty?
Yeah,
I mean,
Rossum
she's
and
still,
Rosalind,
Yeah.
the
yeah,
heartbreaking.
she's still a child of Mondstadt. Of course, he would feel guilty about his baby.
Exactly. And so, like, we have this thing, and one thing that's really confusing is the Abyss Order. Like, we have this come up in 3.5 where they say that the founder of the Abyss Order was an Alberic, right? So we learned that.
Yeah.
Let me adjust this. We learned that, and super fucking interesting. But also, we have some text in Sumeru that kind of imply that monsters and stuff were happening. The Abyss Order was somewhat around before the destruction of Khanri'ah. And so that's one thing I find really confusing.
And also, we know that the Albrecht line is actually not just a random line, it's actually a noble bloodline.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we know that they are related, most likely, to the royal family and not just random people that were put in power after the Eclipse dynasty fell.
Yeah, and we know in Ballads and Brews, or no, not in Ballads and Brews. Hidden Strife tells us that the Elbrics, in
Yeah.
fact, were not the royal family. There is a Khanri'ah royal family that exists completely separately. And the Khanri'ahs, but they like the one-eyed king, I think his name is it's like Ermincool or something. I can pull it up. But he was like asleep and gone. And so the Alberic's were the regents to the throne. And then you take this in one hand. The Alberic's are the regents to the Khanri'ah throne. And on the other hand, the Alberic's also create the Abyss Order. Whether that happens a little before, a little after, it happens around the time of the Cataclysm. And so it's very apparent that all these like factions are coming out of the Cataclysm because you have the Zaritza, and Piero was a royal mage, but he was like disagreed with the politics of it, and he goes with her, and they create the Fatui together. And then you have the wait, then you have the Abyss Order and whatever they're doing. I don't know what they're up to, honestly. And you have the monsters of the Abyss too, like the hilly turtles and stuff, which we'll talk about that because that shit was interesting.
That was
It
cool.
was so interesting. And then we're the witches in Khanri'ah. You have our twin and us coming out of it. I really want to know if the Hexen Circle knows anything about Khanri'ah because I'm dying to know that. And you also have Gold, who's created Albedo and created these monsters. Gold doesn't seem to be involved in the Abyss from what we know.
No, not at
Aren't
all.
people-
Which is really interesting because if you look at it, like what was Gold doing? Was she working separately or
I don't know,
was
man.
working together with the Abyss Order at the time of the Cataclysm? And like, and also there is this again. I will bring this up time and time again. There is so much contradicting shit going on with why the Cataclysm happened. Because
Yes.
on one hand, we have people verbally talking, saying that, oh, it was because Gold Girl was too close to the sun. She created all of these monsters and they were planning to overthrow Celestia. But then we also have everything else that hints at the fact that the Conrians were just living peacefully, not doing anything wrong, and Celestia was the one to be the aggressor. So we have two opposites saying that the Conrians were the aggressions and then Celestia were the aggressions, and we don't know which one's the true one.
Exactly.
Because
And like,
everything written tells us, everything that we have written, everything lore-wise that is text, we have written hints at the fact that Celestia were the aggressors, not the Conrians.
well,
Whereas
I
everyone
think it
verbally-
depends on like what perspective you're looking at. And another faction we have is Dane. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's all floating on his own. But Danesleaf tells us like the Cataclysm happened, and he's like, and we were there. That's also like just really crazy to me that we were there, but we don't know it. We're basically A in this perspective. We have no idea what the hell was going on. But Danesleaf's there. And he's like part of the Royal Knights, which is another group that's coming out of Khanri'ah, and Halfdan, if you remember from the We Will Be Reunited quest.
Yeah.
And he's kind of saying in all his story that like he's gonna leave it to us. He won't say. He says, "Don't trust the gods." Which fair, don't trust anyone. I don't even trust you, Danesleaf. But he says, don't trust the gods. But then he also says that he won't say if Celestia is bad to us. And so that's really confusing as well.
I think it's more that he wants us to make judgment for ourselves rather than get our judgment clouded by other people's.
He's a
You know,
Rag Bros Kenny. Or not Rag Bros. He's a Venti Kenny. Venti Kenny. He's a Venti
also
Kenny.
like that. I
Yeah.
feel like Venti's also like, I won't tell you anything. I want you to make your own free judgment. Like, you're free to go and figure shit out, ask whoever you want. If you need if you want me to answer some questions, I can answer them, but I will not tell you anything that might cloud your judgment and, like, make an impact on what you might choose in the future.
Exactly. And like Jean is one of the only people we have who says something, because she has a voiceover talking about Khanri'ah actually in her character profile that says that mentions a heroic king of Khanri'ah. And so like that's one of the only positive things we have from the playable characters, and it's in Mondstadt, and it makes me really wonder where Jean is hearing these stories from. Like where did she No, but she said she read about it. It's a legend.
Yeah. I know. I'm just kidding because a lot of people thought that maybe it was one of the books that Kaya found in
Oh,
Khanri'ah and
yeah.
just translated it to Jean, or like made a translation of it,
Hmm.
and then just said, "Hey, I found this in the library. You like books? Here, read it."
Yeah. And so, like, another thing is the Hilly Churls, the curse, which we learned a lot about in 3.5.
Yes,
It was
Uh,
so
so
insane.
sad.
they came for our throats, y'all. That shit was sad. It was sad.
It was so
Don't make
sad.
me cry.
It made me cry. I know. I didn't actually cry, y'all saw me. But I was floored. So previously, and we will be reunited. When we go to the chasm, there is a device that activates, and it puts all the Hilly Churls and even our bestie Dainsleif in a lot of pain. And I like to think it put Kaya in a lot of pain as well. But that's just a headcanon. And it's kind of revealed when we're looking that the Hilly Churls are in fact the people of Khanri'ah that have been transformed into monsters. And one thing about Dainsleif, he tells us in that chapter that I am the only one who escaped that curse, and I got to keep my form, but I am also cursed with the immortality. And that is just not the case.
Mm?
Because the person we meet in our twins memories is after the cataclysm in 3.5, but they say that all full-blooded Conrians were not monsters but were cursed immortal.
He might
Yeah.
think that we were cursed immortal because he doesn't know about our origin.
No, but
He might have just
Dainsleif said he was the only person who escaped the curse, but then we have Ida or Clothar telling us that every full-blooded Conrian had a different curse.
Oh.
And so that's a contradiction in the story right now between Dane believes he's the only full surviving Conrian who is cursed differently. And Clothar is saying that if anyone is full blooded, they were just cursed with immortality. And that the monsters are actually the people who. So we find another bit of lore is that. And you kind of saw this in the Fall of Sal Vendigar. They hinted at this. There's some lines there on Dragonspine in some of the text and the things. And I think in the Wings, some of the weapons have some of this lore. Where they talk about a nation who is rising right now. They're trying to build a nation without an Archon around the. And Sal Vendigar fell, I want to say, sometime. Was it before? I want to say between the Archon War and the Cataclysm. So
Mm.
I don't know if that
Mhm.
timeline's right, but since they're saying they're trying to build a land without gods, maybe Sal Vendigar was older. That's something I'm gonna have to look into. But they're trying to build a nation without gods. That sounds really interesting. And so Clothar tells us in 3.5 that actually people. Oh, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome. That people who were in Khanri'ah and defected, so like the Mondstadters who defected, the Leowans, the Inazumans, the Sumerians, who defected from their countries and wanted to go to Khanri'ah and wanted to not be under the rule of an Archon, those are the people who became the Hilly Churls and stuff, because Clothar's son is half Mondstadt, and since he's not a full-blooded Khanri'an, he got turned into a Hilly Churl.
Yeah. But that
Yeah.
also raises the question about Kaya. Why is Kaya different? And does
Yes.
it play into the fact that he is
Yeah.
the last hope?
And so
Like, that is a very interesting part because a lot of people have theorized because of not only his namesake but also his skin tone that he's half Sumerian and maybe of the desert people now that we know Kandake.
And also, I think
And we
like Clothar and Dainsleif have kind of confirmed that Conrians were white. They're basically Norse or German.
they're Norse, they are Swedish, they are Norwegian, they
Kind
are
of
Danish, and
Scandinavian,
they
right?
are Icelandic. Not Scandinavia, but Norse, specifically Norse mythology, specifically because there's a lot of things that relating to Odin and other like
The
scientific
Alberic's,
names.
yeah.
Yeah.
Its name in particular being a mythological, actual literal sword, token rubber wannabe. I'm gonna
Also,
say
also,
that.
there's the fact that they mentioned the Loom of Fate, and there's this in Greek
Yeah.
mythology, but the Norns in Norse mythology are actually do loom like the threads of fate. Where I think that in Greek mythology, it's much more of a sewing kind of. But like the
Mhm.
loom is very Norse mythology, and so we can have a
Oh yes.
sidebar about the Norns in Norse mythology. I can pull them up. I
Yeah.
used to love it.
Yeah, not only that, I'm just like speaking of the fact that they're deriving everything from Norse mythology and shit. I'm just waiting for an eight-legged horse to appear that is birthed by this shapeshifter, gender fluid god of or being of chaos,
Yes,
Loki.
we love that. It's sexy. But so the Norns are they live at the base of Yggdrasil, which is the kind of it's very similar to Irminsul, in a way
Yeah.
but it's like separates worlds more so. But Genshin is going to make a sick anime. Yes, I agree. But they live at the very base of Yggdrasil in Norse mythology, and they spin threads and they weave tapestries of fate, and each thread is the length of a person's life. And this is very interesting because they're calling it the loom of faith or the loom of fate in the quest. That's what Clothar calls it, and that's what that throwaway line back from the 1.0 series was from that no one remembered. Rebel remembered, but I did not remember. I wasn't playing at that point. But and so like there's three Norns, and so I think this is really interesting because there's three moon sisters, and there's also three kind of goddesses associated. There's the goddess of flowers, the desert king, and which was the third? I always get confused. Oh, the ones in Sumeru, the three seats for the Eternal Oasis.
Oh, wasn't it Rukkhadevata? Was it another god?
It was maybe it was Rukkhadevata, but the Norns are Erd, Skull, and Verdandi. If you've never heard of them, and so I'm wondering, what like
I might know, but I need to pull that shit up. Can you send me the Wikipedia page or whatever you're pulling your sources from? I need a Swedish translation.
I know the Norns because of Loki, mythical detective Ragnarok
Yeah.
anime. I was looking. I just googled where do the Norns live, because I was like I didn't remember. Although apparently in some versions they live in the Bifrost. I feel like we're gonna get a Bifrost eventually. Maybe that's all this warping. But I would just Google the wiki page for Norns. It's Norns, and it'll bring that up.
Nornis? Wait,
Yes.
how?
Norns.
Norn.
Yes, I also was obsessed with Norse mythology, so I know a lot about it. But I couldn't
I'm not getting anything.
I don't know. I don't know Swedish.
No, can you just send me the Wikipedia page?
I don't have it. Let me try and find it.
Because I'm not getting up what I need because I'm just getting up a bunch of soccer stuff.
Soccer.
Yeah,
Man.
and Östergötland. Yeah, I'm getting Östergötland.
Here, I put it in the VC co-op chat. And so this weaving of fate is really interesting. Also, who's gonna tell Diluc that he's not murdering Abyss Order or Khanri'ahs? He's definitely murdering Mondstadters.
Oh no.
He's definitely murdering people from Teyvat every time he kills a hilly churl.
No.
Or like
Okay, I know
people,
exactly what
like-
you're talking about now.
Like hybrids.
I know. And like that's the thing is like I didn't realize that there were so many people who were kind of leaving the Archons, because the Archons I jumped in 16 wishes to 42 wishes yesterday. Oh, cuz you claimed your Archon quest wishes, I bet.
Amma, I'm having a very interesting thing. The word you just sent me now in modern Icelandic means witch.
Really? Ooh. I love it.
Icelandic means witch, and
they're females. Like the Norns are females,
Yeah.
so maybe they're. And also,
Yeah.
it's interesting because the Hexen Circle is tied to Irminsul already.
oh, I forgot about this. I forgot about all of this. Can you tell I haven't had Nordic mythology since fucking elementary school? I forgot
Do y'all
about
actually do mythology in school?
Yes, it's a very important part of religion.
We do
Like
not do
mythology.
mythology in school.
No, we have to learn Nordic mythology because it's like part of our, and it's also like considered a religion, even though it's a dead religion. It's thrown in under religion. And so we learn about this in religion as one of the old religions. We also learn about like Egyptian gods and whatnot, and about Greek mythology and whatnot
Oh, that's
as
so
part of our
cool.
religion courses.
I
Yeah, because
learned about
even though they are quote unquote dead religions, we
I
still learn about it because it's important.
I went to a bad school, so I learned about nothing. I always am
I
like,
mean, there.
so I'm not a good. I feel like I'm always like, we didn't learn about that, and other people in the U.S. are like, we definitely did, and I'm like, okay, well, you learned about that. I did not.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Cho, for subscribing. Welcome to
Oh,
stream. Welcome to
gotcha.
lurking. We're just talking about Khanri'ah, and having a good time with that. Um,
Yeah.
where were we? I feel like I had a
Lord.
mental agenda. Yes, the Norns of Fate. And like I feel like with the Hexen Circle coming up in Windbloom, that's a leak. But it's very, very no, that is fine. I'm happy for y'all to just be here. I appreciate it so much. And so I feel like with the Hexen Circle, that's 8. And 8, so we're kind of Celtic Dale here, because we have, oh my god, how many? 11 Fatui Harbingers? And then we have, I don't think,
Yeah.
don't think we have 10 yet. Do we have a 9 of anything? We have 8 witches, 7 archons, 6 sages in Sumeru.
Yeah. I think we have 8 nations because Conrad is considered one of the nations.
Yeah, and we have 8 countries. Maybe it's a witch for every country. Who knows?
Ooh.
And we have 4 descenders. So, also like the voice at the end of the quest. I'm curious as to who y'all. I know I've seen a lot of. Also like no. First, before we get there, I remember we're on a timeline to get there. Who do y'all think? Kaya, why is he not cursed? Because I've seen a lot of people say that Clothar must have managed to heal his son Calibear. And Calibear must be Kaya. But I feel like Calibear
That
could
makes
be
no sense.
Calibear could be Kaya's father. But to
He
me,
could.
he's probably not Kaya himself. And so, because the Alberix is Kaya's line, and it seems like Clothar was the one who survived. Calibear, because Clothar died and was buried. Also, that fertilizer, I'm definitely thinking his wife was the fertilizer.
Oh my god.
Please don't talk about it. But also, one thing about Kaya that is also very reminiscent of Fischl is the fact that he is covering one of his eyes, and it's the exact same eye that Odin gave up to be able to see into the future.
It is
Because
the
it's
oath
the right
sword
eye.
eye. He gave
Yeah,
it
the
up.
ultimate eye.
Fun lore fact. He actually gave it in a trade with Mimir's Well, and Mimir's Well is
Yeah.
this well at the base of Yggdrasil, where Odin went
Yeah.
and looked into it. And he said, I want to trade it for eternal wisdom. And in trade for wisdom, he got his eye taken away. And so I think this is really interesting because we have a lot of carriers. Also, the king of Khanri'ah is called the One-Eyed King, and Odin means king in Norse mythology as well. And so there's really like a strong thread there, especially because Kaya actually covers an eye.
Yeah. So a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people think that he has like heterochromia and he just doesn't want to be stared at. But I think that maybe, like, we know that his eye is like just fine because Diluc says your eye is fine under there. But what if he doesn't actually know that Kaya might actually be missing an eye, or it might actually be a all-seeing eye? Like,
Or
he
we
has-
could be my crack theory and think that his father, even if his father is Calibear, or if his father is a descendant of Clothar that's not Calibear further down the line, that they traded his eye in exchange for something and he didn't have a say
maybe
in
he
it.
did.
That's
He
my
probably
favorite
did.
theory. Is that when he
Yeah.
was a child, because also the fact that little Kaya ran away from Crepus to Sumeru because he thought he could get to Khanri'ah that way. And he said, wait, I'm looking for something. Hold on.
Look
He
for it.
said that Crepus came back and dragged him back to Mondstadt by the ear and just, oh, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome. And the fact that yeah, can y'all imagine? Someone get on this with the fan art and the and I wonder if DeLuke went. And I feel like truthfully Adeline wanted to go and beat the shit out of him and drag him back, and Crepus was like protecting Kai. I was like, no, I've got it. I've got it. Don't worry about it, Adeline.
Adelinda, we love them all.
I know. I'm the #1 Adeline simp, so.
Adelinda, I love Adelinda so much.
I love her too.
My entire
How much do you bet? Like, what do you think happened to Kyle when he got back to the house? I just want to know. I want to be a fly on the wall. Hi, welcome. Oh my god. Oh, it's so good.
I also have like a little theory of what happened with Kaya. I mean, you mentioned kind of, like, Fluffa mentioned when, like, the kid took off the mask, like, Carrie Bear took off the mask, like, afterwards. Like, we do not know what happened to Carrie Bear after he took off the mask. Like, we fainted after that.
We did faint.
And like, he mentioned kind of that this is what causes the Luma fade. So I believe that whatever he's covering under that eye patch, that what Kaya has, is connected to the Luma fade. Like, kind of that this line now goes down to Kaya.
Yes.
Because he shouldn't be existent if, like, all the people who are, like,
from Khanri'ah.
Part Khanri'ahs are, like, cursed. Because he shouldn't be existent at this point. I feel like Carrie Bear got, like, reincarnated or something.
Well, no, maybe that strange mushroom shit we made him worked. Also, those mushrooms changed to be, like, the color of that Archon residue. It was super weird. Also, Penguin, welcome to chat. Also, no sweets for a week. I would cry. It would be so sad. That's his punishment for Klee now. No sweets for a week.
Yeah, not only that, when you talk about the Loom of Fate, that is actually what Odin gave up his eye for. He gave up his eye to be connected to the Loom of Fate, which is how he can see into the future and whatnot.
Yeah, and like talking about talking about prophetic things, we have prophecy in Genshin already. We have Mona who looks into the stars for guidance, and we also have Kalei who has prophetic dreams and was affected by the Archon residue and stuff that they used to try and heal Calibear from being a hilly churl. And so is that gonna tie back to kind of what we've done with Kaya and Odin and this mythology we're kind of stringing out here?
Actually, is it just me that get Loki vibes from Kaya?
No, Kaya's Jesus Christ. Because this is also one thing Genshin does super well is when it weaves together like the Norse mythology with the Gnosticism, because like the symbolism of this, like of sinners being brought up, is very Gnostic and Christian. And also, just because I thought of this, was anyone else actually dead by the line when he's like, welcome back, Calibear. You're a little monster in this world, but you can be daddy's little monster.
That is, like, he was trying.
He was trying so hard, and Calibear was just like, excuse me? And I was just like, you did not just call your son a little monster.
I mean, I think he had lost his mind at that point. So I mean, I guess I understand why he thought that would make him feel better.
Oh, I didn't mean to pin. Rebel, I accidentally pinned something. Oh no, I unpinned it. I'm sorry, I'm technologically challenged.
It's fine.
No, but like that whole thing, you can be, and then like this brings me back because apparently Kaya was standing to the side of the tavern, and so one thing I really, really want to think about is Calibear was a hilly churl, right? Yeah. And like we don't have a distinction between children hilly churls. They're just all the fucking same. They just took a blueprint and whatever your form was, you were transferred into that. And so Calibear was a hilly churl. We don't know how many years had passed. I was looking back through the quest. I haven't been able to find a full transcript yet because I don't want to go search through the VOD. But looking back through it, it seems that that was after the cataclysm. Oh, it was 100 years. It was 100 years. Now I'm remembering.
Yeah.
It is about 100 years that Caliber was a hilly turtle before all this like healing started, because he was coming back to his senses. And in last year's Windbloom, Kaya wrote a poem in the language of the hilly turtles. So would Caliber have would what
2 years ago?
2 years ago, the last Windbloom, whenever that was. So Kaya learned Hilly Churlin from someone. Maybe he learned it from his dad or his grandpa. I do think that someone in the Albrecht line, his grandpa was actually a pirate. I think it was actually a pirate.
If you didn't play, it's kind of
Rebel, go. You can do this. I didn't play this event.
Okay. So, I didn't play it, but I watched people play it. So there's this running joke. So Venti, one of the events was that maybe he learned it from Ella, yes.
Oh, wait.
Okay, so
Side note about Ella. Ella actually doesn't know Hilly Turtle. And there's a lot of things like in the Favonius library, and Kaya and Venti have both made comments that Ella is like actually terrible at linguistics and her Hilly Turtle is awful. So fun fact. You can go Rebel now.
Yes. Okay. So basically, what happened was one of the events for the first Windbloom we ever had. This is our second Windbloom, by the way. So our first.
They skipped the year.
They skipped the year. So our first Windbloom we ever had. Venti had this poem writing class, and so I think the only ones that were like students was Benny, and after Bennett said, "Yo, I want to learn how to write a poem," Kaya comes along and is like, "Yo, I want to join as well. Let me in on that." And so it was one of the events you could do. So basically,
also Bennett's was really fucking weird. It was about Marv Javari, where he was found, and it's like really interesting if you look into it.
Yeah, it was really cute. And so basically, his poem is really short and to the point. It just says, "Meet Mihaya is, how we say, I love you in the language of the Hillagers," means I love you in the language of the Hillagers or something. And Venti and him just have a beat the entire time. Like, there is something, sparks are flying there. So sparks are flying, and they're just like staring down at each other. And people were like, "Is this a threat? What's going on?" It was an entire thing, but it was hilarious, and we still bring it up to this day. And there's still audio. The audio is still circulating on TikTok. If you're lucky,
you can find it. Also, Bennett's is like really sus. Look at it. But apparently, when you go find him, Nahida don't work on him. You can't read his mind. It just gives you a ... He says maybe next time we see each other in Mondstadt, we can discuss my Windbloom poem from last year.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is just getting more and more sus, bestie. Also, stop hiding people around the corners, Hoyo. I miss them every time.
Yeah, it's so cute though.
And it's always Kaya. Like, I remember when you left Dawn Winery, they hid him around back, too. Stop hiding Kaya around the back of the house and the back of the tavern.
Yeah. They didn't hide him. They love hiding Kaya because Kaya is the most sought after character.
He's very popular. Kaya and Zhao and the other Archons, except Nahida, are getting their Nendroids soon, so I will be checking that out. Also, I ordered me a sweater. I will let y'all know when the sweater comes in what the Academia merch looks like, because I'm making some Academia merch. I want to check the quality myself. I did put it in my Linktree and stuff. It's on Redbubble, so you can look at it and stuff. I just want to check the quality before I like put on TikTok and tell people it's out there, because I don't want to like tell y'all to buy something or show y'all something. But I wanted fucking School Academia merch. I bought Koshara War. And I'm gonna buy a Haravitat in an extra big size so I can act like I'm Kaveh wearing Al Hytham sweatshirt.
Of course you will.
Look, and oh my god, and then I gotta do Sino and Tignori. I wear hoodies and sweatshirts around the house like 24/7, so these are just my comfort clothes, and I always need more.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
But yes, I will let y'all know. But like also 7 sages and 7... Wait, how many houses are there in the Academia? 7, right? 6. 7. 6.
No,
6. Because there's 6 sages. 6 Darshans.
Are there 6
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 6 Darshans.
And so I'm wondering, like, Which Darshan? I don't know, because if Khanri'ah is linked, I feel like maybe Farzan. I'm trying to think of which Darshans would like actually study Khanri'ah. It wouldn't be.
Oh, I think
I
it's
think the history
the
version.
astrology one. It's the astrology one because we know that.
Isn't there one that's based on history though, that studies history?
That's considered forbidden history, isn't it?
No. So there is a Darshan that just studies history though. Hold on.
Yeah.
I have them written down somewhere. I'm gonna have
Was
to
it
I
scroll.
don't think that Khanri'ah is forbidden history, is it?
No, Khanri'ah might be forbidden history, but I don't know. They're off making gods. I don't really trust any of these people not to be doing research they're not supposed to be doing.
I mean, they let Dotoria be a student there at some point. So.
They let Dotori back in. He burned them once, and they said, "Nah, that wasn't enough. Let's let him back in and make another god with us."
Oh, you did some bullshit at the academia and we're banned? We'd take you right back in. Don't worry about it.
Also, it makes me wonder.
To be fair, Azar is literally like fucking insane and really fucking selfish. So
Yes. Wait, I don't want the actual Darshans. I want, like, in Hinduism, I want fake Darshans from Sumeru. I don't want. Okay, so let me see because there are 6 sins. There are 6 sins in Sumeru and 3 like good things, which are the 3 good things are the book. So it's praxis, ingenuity, and admonition. Fun fact about Sumeru: the virtues, 3 virtues and 6 sins. The 6 sins are interfering with human evolution, Dottore; tampering with life and death, Dottore. And I see the Dottore mask right there. Delving beyond the universe. Okay, Scaramuccian child. Investigating the origins of words. That is definitely Al Hytham. He's not listening. Also, I feel like Farzan doesn't give a shit. Revering gods without acts of devotion. That's a really interesting to me because it says gods, not archons, and it means acts of devotion, question mark. What is that? And attempting the forbidden and fearing none is the last one.
that is just. Didn't the academia just break all of them?
You know, they're not very good at following their own rules. So yeah, Vahumana, which is the yellow one, is focusing on collecting and recording all histories.
Oh yeah, right. I always forget that one exists.
Yeah,
we don't
so-
have any directors on that.
Well, Iskander is from the Vahumana, and he was a figure in Sumeru who was one of the great sages. We don't really know about him, but he was in some of the quests that you kind of, when you were doing the ruin golems, he was involved in those quests. Like in some of the notes we have was Iskander. And if you don't know, Iskander is a Greek variant or a Middle Eastern on the Greek Alexander. So there was a sage in Sumeru that's kind of named after Alexander the Great.
I mean, fair enough, because Alexander the Great was really important in Persian and Egyptian and like a lot of those histories. Like, he was really, really important.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping this Iskander figure who was like one of the, and he's known as one of the greatest sages to ever live in the academia, gets to come back, because you don't just name someone after Alexander the Great and drop him in a note and leave him forever. You don't just do that.
Typical NPC treatment.
The treatment. And then, and also, like, he had in the B. Marston's proverb column, you can find that he has a proverb, and it says, "Seek violence, and violence shall find you."
Nice.
And so I'm like, and this is involved in that giant ruin golem quest, seeking violence. I don't know what Khanri'ah was up to, but them ruin golems are sus.
They're very sus.
Why did y'all need
why
that?
Make such big things. They're too huge.
Well, we know that Rhine-Daughter was like obsessed with copying things. You can kind of see this in all the ruin animal, or all the ruin things are copies of other monsters. Like the ruin, I don't know the ruin creatures' names, but one of them looks like Storm Terror. The one that's like, Ka, I don't know. I shouldn't make Ka noises, but The flying one is based off of Storm Terror. The Ruined Serpent is based off the fucking thing we have to fight for Alhaitham in the desert. Um,
Mm.
what are
The
the other? The Jade
Oh, the
Plume?
Drake.
Is it the Drake?
no, not the
The
jade
Drake.
plume
The
terror
Drake
shrew. That's
is.
the bird.
No, I'm talking about the Drake being the Valen.
Worm. Just call it
Yes.
the worm.
The Drake is after Dvalin, and like Daughter's just obsessed with the Rift Hounds. Or the Rift Hounds are based on the Golden Wolf Lord. Like
Yes.
wait, is the Golden Wolf Lord Daughters, or was that already in existence?
That's Rhine-Daughter.
Yeah, it's Rune-Daughter. Yeah, it's Rune-Daughter.
Was that after Andreas? I wonder. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
That's
like
right.
all of the ruin, like Khanri'ah wanted to be godless, but was kind of copying all these mythical creatures. And I bet one of my biggest theories is that Daughter tried to make her own god. And that might be something that is in Kaya or something. If you've read any of my fan fiction, you know I love the idea that Kaya has a gnosis.
Oh yes.
It's just so I can't leave it alone. The idea that Kaya has his own gnosis.
You think that Kaya's nose is in his eye?
I think that they're all in their like bodies. So I have thought that Kaya's gnosis was in his. Why are my headphones popping? We're turning you down. That was weird.
What I also find interesting about the whole quest, the last quest, like in 3.5, is like that according to that, like the books about the archons and everything were forbidden knowledge and Khanri'ah. Like anything related to like archon stuff or the seven. Like Clawfa mentioned that.
Yeah.
I think that is interesting.
Also, the fact that he was like, I'm following this recipe that was banned and that they said definitely under no circumstances use. I found it in the forbidden section of the library, very Hermione Granger style. And then halfway through it, when it didn't work the first time, he's like, you know what? Fuck the second half of this recipe. I'm going to do what I want and let this random voice bless it instead of the 7. And we're going to see how that goes. And I was like, my guy.
What?
Like, what is going on? Because remember, it said it needed like a statue of the 7, and then the second time we did it, he said, "I'm not doing that half of the recipe. We're gonna go back into the hole and just let that random guy do it."
It was so fucking weird.
And I was like, "Bro, I know," because he was so fucking unhinged, but he just kept getting more and more unhinged as the night went on, and I was like,
It was so sad.
the voice actor did a phenomenal job.
I thought he was gonna turn on us and we had to fight him at some point because of the way that he was constantly like talking in this very unhinged voice. I was like, at some point he's gonna turn on us. He's
No,
gonna hurt us.
he'd get the good old wind blade. One wind blade and he'd fall over. That man was not well.
No,
I mean,
he was
like,
sick.
He was like kind of wild with it. Also, like, I wonder if the wife. So if the wife wasn't the fertilizer. I don't know. Because when they found Clothar's body, there was a woman buried with him. And he made us go away while he was making this fucking fertilizer. And it turned the damn mushrooms red.
Blood.
And I'm like, okay, bestie. Like, what's going on? So I thought he was like Full Metal Alchemist, Nina and Alexander, this shit, you know? But
No, don't remind me.
no, he totally was. October 3rd, never forget.
I mean, mushrooms thrive on organic material, aka corpses. So I do believe that it could have been his
Also,
wife,
like,
but he-
that's what fungi are. So, like, it makes complete sense. But, like, who was the woman? And this makes me wonder if she knew Senora. Because Senora was born and alive around the time of the Cataclysm. She became immortal afterwards when she became the Crimson Witch of Flames after Rostam died.
Yeah, she gave up herself, and she was also part of the Hexen Circle, wasn't she?
So we don't know if Senora...
was the witch.
She was a witch, but we don't know. The only person we know was a member of the Hexen Circle is is Alice for sure, and I thought Mona's master is a member as well.
Oh, Mona Master is a
Yes.
yes.
But there's
Yeah.
8 of them, so 8 witches,
Mm,
and there's only
now that I think about it, doesn't like Lisa talk about this circle?
Lisa says that she knows of them, but she did not want to get involved, and she did not
Yeah.
become a member. So it kind of sounds to me like she may have been offered a position in the Hexen Circle, and like I kind of feel like Lisa knows something about Khanri'ah that we don't.
Probably figured out Kaya's origin and just confronted him about it.
Also,
And said, I'll keep it a secret.
how dare they send Lisa and Kaya to Sumeru, but make Kale go to Mondstadt for Amber?
Like, I think it's because, like, isn't Amber, like, the only outrider left? They
She
can't
is.
send
I
it-
just think it's so funny. They send all the 3 starter characters to Sumeru. They send 2 of the 3, except the one who has very strong ties to someone in Sumeru, and Kale has to go to Mondstadt for that.
Yeah, but I think the reason for this being is because, like, she is the only
Hi,
outsider,
welcome.
and not only that, Kaya and Lisa, like, they are, like, you know, captains. Like, Lisa isn't a captain, she's a librarian.
She's a librarian. She's turned down
But
her
Kaya-
captaincy many times. Amber is a captain. She's the captain of the Outriders.
Yeah, technically, but she doesn't have the captain, like,
She's
stamp
just
on her.
Outrider Amber. I guess technically she would be under Eula, who's reconnaissance.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
she's under.
And where is Queen Eula? I will be going for Shinha.
Eula.
I'm so excited. Also, the collected misanthropy for Dehya's out, and I still don't understand that shit. I gotta go watch it again.
Yeah, like, the thing is that Kaya doesn't leave it, doesn't leave Mondstadt without a captain. Like, there are there are 3 captains still left in Mondstadt.
Yes.
Hertha is left, Yola is left, Albedo is left. And a lot of people forget Albedo is the captain of investigations. He's also chief alchemist. Don't forget
It
he's
doesn't
also
make
the-
sense. Why did they make him captain of investigations? I feel like
Because
Jean
he's
just said,
smart.
do something, Albedo. And he's like, investigate this world further. And she was like, sounds good. You can do that. Because I think there's also a
Actually-
captain of the wall or the guard. But they're
Isn't
not
that
here.
Hertha? No, yeah, he left. I
He
forgot
left.
about that.
And it's looking
but-
more and more like Varka's going to have physical kit because Rosarius, trained by Varka, has physical assets. Yule is physical. She was trained by Varka. Razor has physical assets. He was trained by Varka. And now Mika's coming back. He was taught how to use the crossbow, and he's a physical buffer.
Yeah.
Albedo
We love that.
is the
Physical
chief
Varka.
alchemist of the Knights of Favonius and the captain of
Captain of
investigations.
And actually, I think I have an answer as to why he's the captain of investigations, because he knows chemistry and stuff like that, right? He can do investigating with chemicals and stuff like that. He uses
CSI
that
Albedo edition.
to- Yeah, like he
Physical
like,
Varka. I need him to be like the macho fucking monster bearded like 40-year-old dilf that Genshin won't give us.
You mean Wagner, but make him hotter?
Wagner, but hotter and like fucking bigger and like so
Buffer.
giant buff German man. I want Mika to look like this beside him. I want him to be so fucking massive and raw. Like, take Cyrus, the Adventurers Guild captain, who I would
Yeah.
play Cyrus if he came out as playable. Like, I would play him. Also, Albedo is chemistry. Varka have made the assignments. I think Varka would have made captain assignments, but I'm unclear on the timeline if Albedo was in Mondstadt and in the captaincy before Varka left. Because Jean got her vision when she became the leader of the Knights, when she became the acting Grandmaster.
I
Yeah.
think that it's hinted at the fact that
Also, welcome, Kale.
welcome. That Albedo was in Mondstadt and offered a position and granted it before Varka left, but came probably just after, because
Yeah.
he's nowhere to be seen during the Kale drama, which happened immediately after Varka.
But everyone else was there. Yeah, I agree with
Yes.
that. Also, like, fun
And
fact.
Klee wasn't even seen either. So Klee was not there. So Alice and Albedo were
Yes.
probably on their way together with Klee to
Mondstadt.
leave them. Yeah.
Because, like, a really interesting thing is that Albedo was not from Mondstadt, and he was entering the city, and Alice actually wrote him a letter, or Gold connected him with Alice, and Alice wrote him a letter of introduction to the Knights. And we learn about this in his character story, but also they touched on it in Hidden Strife when all those friggin' letters were floating around. And the fact that Albedo and Diluc were pen pals while he was away, I will never get over the fandom just brushing over the fact that Albedo and Diluc exchanged letters a lot. Because what the hell?
That for them.
I do. I love it for them too.
I definitely love the idea of like he's freezing cold in the middle of shift 9. He's like, oh, I gotta write a letter to my bestie.
Exactly. And like they were besties. And like I feel like if Kaya finds out they were besties, he's gonna feel so betrayed.
No, I think he knows.
I would hide.
What is the timeline of Varka specifically with Klee? So it's kind of in the air. It's not great. What we have of the Knights is Diluc is made cavalry captain at 14. He's very young.
Yes.
And then at 18, that is when Crepus dies, and the Knights and Varka is the head of the Knights
the Grandmaster.
The Grandmaster. At this point, Varka and the Knights are like, actually, we can't let it know that Ursa the Drake was kind of slain by your father, so we're going to cover it up. And Diluc leaves. He's like, fuck all of you. I'm out of this. Here's my vision. Bye. Kaya becomes cavalry captain. And they're around. Diluc is 18-ish in this time. Jean, we don't know. Jean says Diluc is her senior, but I think that could also just mean he entered before she did, but she could still be older. And so time passes. Varka leaves on an expedition at a certain point. And Albedo comes in with a letter of recommendation. And Klee is left in the care of the Knights of Favonius at this time. And Jean kind of takes on for her. Varka leaves with, like, what do you say, 3/4 of the Knights?
Yeah, 3/4 of the Knights.
And leaves Jean as acting Grandmaster. We don't know exactly when this happened or how long Varka's been on this expedition. Do you?
That it's, I can estimate because of ages and whatnot based on the webtoon. We can assume that it was 2 years before the immediate start of the game, which was 2 years ago.
Wait, they told us
ago.
in game. Hold on, the wiki says they told us. Let me see. According to Jean's character story 3, he left half a year before the start of the game.
Yeah.
So let me look at Jean's character story 3 just to double check this. And see exactly what it says. But Alice basically said, y'all a long time babysitter, I won't be back. And she's off doing stuff, but she sends stuff for Klee to do. So she obviously is like paying attention.
And she also visited us during the second Golden Apple Archipelago and took Klee away. So Klee wasn't even a part of the Golden Apple Archipelago. Just left the island for Mona to use for role playing. Mona and officials to use.
So it says, I'm assuming this is from the start of the game. Half a year ago, Varka led the elite Knights of Favonius on yet another expedition away from Mondstadt. An expedition, how typical of Varka's character. I'll leave things here to you. You've been basically doing my job for years now anyway. Leave it to me, Grandmaster. After seeing the Grandmaster off, Jean sat by the window and thought to herself, upon your return, I will show you a kinder, more prosperous, and more peaceful Mondstadt. And according to Jean's vision story, it is at this point in time that she actually gets her vision.
Yes, and not only that, but we know that 2 years have actually passed.
In game, because time is passing in game.
So we know that it's about 2.5 years then.
2.5 years, and that we have been awake and separated from our siblings.
Yes. Because we also traveled 500 years into the future, so you need to remember that part. And also,
yeah, but we weren't awake for that, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't count.
But also, let's not forget the fact that we somehow among all of this 500 years or whatever, we drank the wine with Venti? Like, are we just
Yes,
gonna...
in the
are we just
webtoon. Who knows what was going on with that? Okay, we've reached around an hour, and I have to do a shorter stream today,
Yeah.
because I have to go help my sister go shopping.
Oh, yeah.
But I will raid someone, and we will be back on Sunday. If y'all like these Just Talking streams, once a week we can change and just do a lore stream. Just Talking streams. Once a week we can change and just do a lore stream. Oh my god. I'm talking too much. I opened Twitch to go look for someone to raid, and I forgot the tab wasn't muted. That was terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
I don't. That was like a jump scare. Imagine hearing your own voice. It could not be me. Yeah. Okay, who should we raid? Anyone have a recommendation? You have a good day too, and go like and follow the socials, join the Discord. We have our amazing mod team here, and Alex as our guest star for today.
Yay.
I don't see anyone.
Oh, Mean just went live. They're still on just starting.
Okay. Oh, you can go with Mean.
All right, Mean. They're not even on yet. Because we're doing a Genshin lore stream. I feel like this is perfect. Means Leaf is one of my favorite lore creators. I'm going to go ahead and send y'all on their way to them. But like I said, follow socials, join the Discord. Anything else?
No,
do that.
It.
Also, we'll be streaming actual gameplay on Sunday. Oh, thank you so much for the follow. Right as we're getting off to, but I stream Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. I don't even remember when I stream. So go. They're starting their stream and have a wonderful day. They have drops turned on, so make sure to collect those.
Oh, fun.
Okay.
Fun.
I forgot I had to get off after an hour, and my sister texted me, and she was like, I'm almost back. You need to come. And I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah. I was just going to say hi. If you don't get back too late, Alma, I have stuff I want to tell you.
Okay. I will be back probably and on.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was me that followed at the end.
Oh, it was? Oh my god. I was like, who just followed right at the end?
That was me. That was so I didn't forget.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
I just didn't join while the stream was going because I don't know crap about Genshin lore.
It's so fun, yes.
Alma, by the way, the new Prime code just dropped for the win.
Thank you.
Doing that right now.
I keep trying to set up the reminder for the Prime Gaming stuff, but it keeps only sending it to me DM when I do it.
Yeah, I'll do it manually in announcements for Genshin.
I love you, Rebel. Thank you so much. You have memory, and I just don't.
I just remembered that I had to check it. I was just like, yo, when is the new code dropping?
Give me more primos. I need to check how many witches I'm at because